You guys don't like to play that loose and crazy and just throw it up on Twitter and see who joins? Because that was a mistake.
So
That was
we have had a moment where we had Thomas the Train come in and just start playing like Thomas the Train. Funny enough, it was when Mubix was on talking about like presenting on the topic. So I don't know if it's just a hacker friend coming in messing with him or what. And I don't like we started
I,
freaking out. We haven't really had an incident since then. It's just been
we
when
hadn't
Mubix
had
was.
before that,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure they were just trolling us.
So yeah. All right. Looks like we're rolling. Jeff, let me know if my microphone needs to be adjusted again. That really was helpful last time. So, or David. David was the one that
Oh
did
yeah,
it.
that was. I'm about to be driving, so I probably am not a good candidate for that. But
No, I think you should do it. You're young, man.
don't
I
podcast
happen
and
to
drive.
be. Well, I'm on the Google Meet now. Last month, or 2 months ago, whenever that was, I couldn't figure out how to get on the Google Meet. All I could get was the YouTube. So I was like, I'm just gonna accept my role as quality control analyst, and
Oh, we need that. I definitely need that because I'm still trying to figure out. Like, I'm doing my own producing where I'm trying to get all the different things moving, and it looks really bad, even like on YouTube. Let's see.
mm,
So, because I can see it on YouTube right now, but that's fine. We're doing it
You
live.
sound good on YouTube. You're good.
Yeah. It does look, unfortunately, that looks like it's a little jacked up. Like the presentation is not meeting. Let's just do it this way. Yeah. All right. There we go. All right. Well, we're live. We're rolling. Um, so welcome to ExploreSec. Introductions. You've got Adam Twitty, who's not here. You got me and Jeff though, and then Corey. We're probably gonna put. I took Jessica out finally. We're probably gonna move to fading Corey and Adam out because they have little kids now. So uh, if anyone's interested in organizing, you're more than welcome to check it out or reach out. Speaking of getting
wait, how
connected.
do I see the presentation?
Oh, I'm not sharing it. Hold on. I gotta see this is what I'm talking about. I gotta share it internally here also. So I've gotta like share it in two different places.
Shame on all of you for not saying anything. I was
I
like,
know.
maybe
Thank
it's
you.
because I'm on
Quality
mobile. There it is.
David, you are now quality control, by the way. So
All right, I can
welcome
still
to
do
the
that
team.
part,
Welcome
just
to
not
the
the
team.
audio.
You're gonna
All right,
call.
please continue.
um let's see. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I gotta mess around with that and play with that. I could have been checking that instead of mess around. Anyways, um, actually, we can fix this. There we go. Or do I do this? No, we don't do that. I'm messing around with stuff now. All right. So you can get connected on colasec. .org. Although a lot of that's going away. By the way, we're still transitioning away from that. I just need to get to that point. You can go to it'll soon be on ExploreSec, but a lot of that stuff's still on there. Um, if I would say the biggest thing, and I need to add it to this slide, is to check out Meetup. So if you go to meetup.com, that's where we're going to have kind of the regular events. You can go to the YouTube channel to watch. If you're on Slack and sign up for a listserv, then you can come to the actual Google Meet. We are more than happy to have people come in and participate a lot like a regular meetup. So presentations, if you have mine didn't switch. Why is this not switching? You guys don't see the presentation, have a presentation idea, do you? Slide?
Nope.
No.
Just get
No.
connected.
Yeah, let me reshare. Something's now broke. Well, that's no good. Am I in the wrong thing? Hold on. All right, there's that. Let's exit that. We're going to do presenter view because I like presenter view, and then I need to share it. I wonder if I'm like this. This would be new if this happens. Is because I'm doing it on OBS, but I'm not sharing directly to OBS. So now you guys see that. You guys still don't
Yeah.
see the presentation view though, do you?
No, just getting connected in your browser.
Okay. Okay. Stop presenting. All right, let me change this.
Yeah, when I did OBS back in the day, I used to have like put it on a separate monitor in its own browser, and then F11 the browser window, and then tell OBS to only share that
Yeah.
application or window. I forget what it called it, but it was special.
Yeah, it's being. I'm gonna do the entire screen here, so we're gonna do entire screen too. You guys should see that now.
Yeah, have a presentation idea.
Yeah, and you guys see that. Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. Transition works. Yeah. So if you have a presentation, always looking for more people. To submit. We don't have anything for next month. We will probably do more of these like live recordings if we don't get presentations, which is great because then I get to throw it on the podcast. So this is something new. We did this for how to participate in the CTF last month. I run a podcast called Exploring Information Security, if you don't know. Mauricio, how does that look now as far as the slide presentation? I think I got some of the kinks worked out. Let me know in the chat since you're on the YouTube stream. So yeah, if you have an idea, this is a great opportunity to come and speak and sharing some stuff. I also have a presentation called Timothy D. Block Presents Fun with Fishes, which is just a play on Big Bang Theory and Sheldon's like fun with flags, but doing it with fishes. So that's my new talking about fishing this year. Thank you, Mauricio. So we're coming into spring in 2 days, but mental health is still a huge thing. We like to support mental health hackers. A lot of this came about because a couple years ago we did lose a member of the ExploreSec community. They committed suicide. So we like to support mental health hackers. If you're feeling it, COVID was especially stressful for a lot of people. So hopefully, people became more aware of their mental health. But I'll say with social media, mobile devices, our brains are constantly on, and they're just not made to be constantly on. So getting help is what this organization really helps out with, specifically focused on the cybersecurity and hacker community. So know that you're not alone. I've gone through it. I've had issues mental health wise. I've got a family history of mental health issues. So that's something that I just have to deal with and try to avoid. But these are really great resources for anyone needing help. Upcoming events. So Ben's here. Yay. I don't know if, Ben, you want to talk about what you guys are talking about the Linux users group like this past month, and then if you have something planned for next month already.
We've been doing it so long. I just rely on Jace to get somebody for next month.
That sounds like some of our organizers.
Am I burned out? Yeah, just a little bit.
No, I get it. Like that's kind of the cycle. That was kind of our disappointment with COVID, right? Is that we had 25 people, and we were rotating through people coming out to the meetups and then getting involved in actually helping organize. Because at some level, this is as Bonnie came on, while me and Kyle were here, no one else was on yet, but she said thank you for coming on and doing this, right? Because she understands after a full day of work, we're coming here and we're talking about cybersecurity again. So. Yeah. So yeah, if you guys are into Linux, definitely check out the group. Ben is burned out, so go give him a hug. You guys are still meeting in person though, right?
No, we flamed out before you guys did.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're gonna update that. You tell me. Give me the details, and I'll update this. If it's just like virtual, is it just virtual only then?
Yeah. We host our meetings on Jitsi. meet.jit.si/SC Lugs, South Carolina Lugs, Linux user groups. It's not up there, but I'll send it to you. I'll put it in the chat. Hold on.
Yeah. Send it to me. Put it in the chat. However you want to do it.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Want to update it still. I mean, it's good that you're still. We did the kind of the same thing. Adam and I gave them crap, but Adam and Corey have Two little ones running around now, so I totally get that. As far
Yeah.
as that's just one other thing on top of a full day's work. So,
Yep.
and we're going virtual only. We're kind of rebranding into my whole shtick, which is ExploreSec. Another one that I'm a big supporter of is ShowMeCon. I'm going to also start having Dave Chronister, who runs ShowMeCon, come on and help me out with some of the new stuff, so that we have someone regular to talk about some of the new stuff. So I'm adding him. I'm experimenting with guests. We have Kyle on for this week, so Kyle Andrus is here. He's gonna help out. He's one of my favorite people to talk to about like security stuff and other stuff. He sends me a picture of his automated lawnmower. So he's automated his lawnmower.
As one does.
Yeah, he should automate all the things. All right, let's get into the news. And this is a logistics thing that I need to remember to do, because I want to take this. We're going to start this recording so I can transcript it on Google Meet. So I'm starting the recording so I can have that recording. So news for March 18th. We have quite a bit to talk about too, by the way. I am going to preface this with, this is I am politically agnostic, so I don't lean one way or the other. You might, and that's fine. What we're talking about is some of the shifts in what's being done within the government. So, and I'll run through some of this stuff. So over 130 system employees, including election security experts, were terminated, raising concerns about cyber threat preparedness. Doge has been walking in and just collecting up databases within the federal government, which is, I think they're getting sued by like 73 different entities throughout the United States, which is just,
Getting wrecked.
yeah. And I think some of them they've walked, like, I think I read too, like Department of Justice is like, don't listen to them. Like they wanted the, what are the 5 things that you did this past week? They wanted that starting to be sent to them. And the Doge is, I don't have the acronym here. If someone has it from it handy, that'd be great. But it's like an efficiency, government efficiency, like team or whatever.
Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah. Department of, yeah, which is just ridiculous because they renamed it from like an actual reasonable name to Doge. They knew what they were doing too. Like I've been with developers where we've come up with project names, and we're coming up with some, pretty interesting names that you really don't want to share, but they're doing it for the government. But it's pretty wild right now, and Krebs on security has been covering this a lot. We'll have links that I believe I dropped links in the YouTube description as well for this stuff, so people can kind of follow along with that. But Krebs has been doing a lot with that, talking about some of the cuts that have occurred, but then also really digging into who's on this Doge team. And he's finding that people from like the comm and hacker community have, like the black hat community are in Doge, which is part of some sort of brain trust thing. I don't know. It gets very deep and very wild. But there's just kind of a lot within the government going on. There's been apparently a chainsaw held on stage by Elon Musk to, this is like the chainsaw of efficiency or whatever. And anyone else, feel free to jump in and correct me too, please, because I'm still catching up on a lot of this stuff.
The good proper pronunciation there is Dodgy.
Dodgy? Is that what they're saying? They're not, but it's Dogecoin. Like they can't. That's like the GIF and GIF debate, right?
You can say Doge. I'm gonna say Dodgy.
Dodgy.
Yes.
So there we go. We got our first debate. I'm glad that's the debate, not like an actual political one.
I posted in the chat. There's a response act that somebody went out of their way to come up an acronym for bad Doge.
Oh, really? It's not Doge. It's not
Bolstering
Doggy.
America's democracy and demanding oversight in government ethics act.
That's like that scene from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where they're like, would you think this is? Someone really wanted to name the organization S.H.I.E.L.D. Couple other things. There's been a bit of a mixed reporting on this one, which is a CISA and some of the other, I guess, I don't know if you want to call them hacking organizations, but organizations that do cyber operations being told not to focus on Russia. So there's been a bit of back and forth on that, saying that they've been told not to do anything with Russia, but then it's more like a halt in operations while there's negotiations going on to try and, negotiate the Ukraine and Russian war. So that's been going on as well in all this. Funding halts, like, just across the board. It's just a really, really, I guess, interesting time to be in government work. And unfortunately, I think with the current economic landscape, this is not a good time for federal employees. So
Yeah, and I can speak on the CISA stuff as well. Like, we've so I work for a utility company, and in that utility company, we've got a larger group that we get kind of have a shared chat. We talk about, like, okay, so CISA just had a cut of a large amount of people. Is anybody starting to see like intelligence briefings or like reports starting to drop? And currently it's not, which is good. But then you have another side of the space where CISA is also the primary kind of government body that was helping with election security, with education, with reaching out to election bureaus and all that stuff. My wife works in election bureaus for the state of Michigan, and she actually went to DC for a conference that they had. And when they arrived there, a lot of the lawmakers in Congress and all that stuff, they were all about like, oh yeah, we're here to support you. We want to make sure that security is number one for elections. And they turn around and the CISA table is empty. And no one was approved or allowed to go because of all the budget cuts and all that stuff. So it's like things are starting to fall apart for sure. And you're going to start to see it definitely down the line. And I forgot the piece of it, but they also chopped, I forgot the department name. But EISAC has just got some massive hits where they're going to lose funding for a lot of their parts.
Now, and, I am going to say, I don't know how much you get use out of ISAC, but the ISAC I'm in, which is healthcare, I have found I found some use, but there's a lot of stuff that goes in there that I don't care about. So I don't know if for utilities, if it's different and you guys get better, like, actionable stuff, but to me, it's like a listserv to be on that's just got like 90% of it's just like, I don't care about any of this stuff.
It's actually been, we've gotten really good reports out of it. I'd say.
Yeah.
There's another government program called CRISP, where they actually put an appliance inside your network, and they'll basically get network flows. So they could alert you if they see something suspicious, and at the same time, it also allows you with that subscription, you actually get like money I'm sorry, not money, but you get reports, site reports and other stuff from the government. Those are the ones I'm worried about them cutting, or if those don't come out, because those actually are pretty useful, and they're very actionable. We found a lot of like current campaigns, stuff like that before, when we got like government reports, to be honest, they were like a month behind. And what we got from CRISP recently, and even from our EISAC portals, we're getting reports now. They're a lot more up to date. They're a lot more closer to when the campaign started. So really hope they don't get affected, but it's hard to keep hope when I keep seeing all these cuts, and those are gonna, for a department that already was like understaffed, like they're already doing the work of 3 people, each individual there at CISA, and losing people's not good.
Yeah, no, it's never good. This is kind of the Republicans' like edict or whatever, right? Is like not big government. They want a more state control type thing, right? So I'm with you. I was happy to see that the Kev list was recently updated by CISA for like a recently known, and I'm hoping, like you're saying, some of that more useful stuff is still out there. Like that Kev list is, useful for a lot of different reasons. And so it's like, and that maybe that's the hope, right? Is that maybe some of this other stuff gets cut that we don't see, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see the impact going forward. They were even talking about NIST. I think NIST was talking about like a bunch of cuts, which ended it. Like, that's the other thing too, is really a lot of this stuff I found you got to give like 3 days to figure. And if this is like when a new vulnerability comes out, like you got to let it bake a little bit, because there's a lot of misinformation. Like NIST was like, we're going to lose 500 people. And it was like, well, they're not going to, like, I think they said, how do you say it again, Ben? Dodgy. I'm going to say doggy, by the way. It's going to happen. Dodgy, like dodgeball. so NIST thought they were going to lose like 500 people. It's like, no, it's more like this, or that they like the doggy people showed up. See, I said it. The Doji, no, not the Doji, the Dodge. People are showed up into the office and people started freaking out, right? So there seems to be a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of unanimous sources going and talking to these reporters too. So it's just like you got to let it kind of, I guess, play out. But NIST is definitely one that's been around for over 100 years. Like I didn't realize that was built or put in place like before World War I or like around World War I. So it's been, and that's more like science and research and other stuff, right? We get those NIST guidelines and frameworks and standards. So you hope some of that stuff stays. But maybe there is rampant, I don't know. But it's also interesting too. I think they said that it's the administration came out and said, "Oh, we've already saved like 86 billion," and people are like digging into the math and like, not even close. and you're doubling up here and this, So it's just an interesting thing. I will say. Oh, another thing too, I was listening to the Risky Business podcast and they had Rob Joyce on, who recently went and talked to the government about the fact that you can't just go cut your probationary people, because that's what a lot of people were doing. Is if you're in a probationary period, you are gonna you might lose your job because it's considered like you're not hired just yet. But he talked around some of the nuances of that. Is that like people new into the organization that they're trying to recruit start for the first 2 years, and it's not like a 90 days thing, it's like a 2 years thing. And then also if you have like there's nuances to it, like if you move up into a role you might be added as like probationary. So like and it sounds like the government was listening and going, oh wait, maybe we shouldn't start firing all these probationary people. We should really look into how we can trim budget with the right people. So interesting stuff. I don't know if anybody else has any. I feel like I've covered it. Anything else?
No, just that NIST also does a lot of the CSF standards for like cybersecurity frameworks. So they have a ton of material that if you want to build a cyber program, they were kind of like the crown jewel of best practices.
Yeah, I recently found out they have hiring guidance.
Yeah.
Like for this North Korean thing that recently popped up. It's like I didn't realize that was there. I got to go like dig into like their catalog and see what's there. Some of it's outdated, but I think they are trying to keep it pretty relatively updated. All right, moving on. Carding reinvented in mobile wallets. So Krebs had a really good article on how you can turn phishing data into like Apple, Google wallets. So in the US, we finally put a chip in place for credit cards. If people remember, you were probably replacing your credit card on a pretty regular basis because it was getting stolen. Target's a big one, but then Home Depot followed. Like we used to have, the swipe stripe was easily able to, steal those credit cards and then reuse them. Well, now the PIN has come in. It's stopped a lot of that. But now attackers have figured out a way where essentially they send you like hey, you went through this toll, you owe us money. They have you sign up for something or go to like a pay thing. But then what they do with that pay site is they pretty much flip it onto like a mobile wallet that they own, and then they go and use your card because you've given up that information. And they have to have this was interesting. They have to have like their own phone for each one of these. So they've got like this, a lot of different phones that they load these things on. And then I think they have to wait like 7 to 10 days to avoid detection to start using them. So that was an interesting thing. I don't know if anybody had heard of it or read up on that one yet. All right. This was the Bybit crypto exchange hack. This was huge. It was Bybit lost 1.5 billion in Ethereum. This is probably one of the largest crypto heists. They were linked to North Korea, and the hackers like pretty much compromised a developer machine and then altered a transfer process to steal the funds. The crypto was quickly converted to Bitcoin and funneled through the DeFi platforms. It sounds like they're offering a 10% bounty for helping recover the funds, but I believe like the North Koreans have gotten so good at this that they've already gotten like 100 million or 100. No, was it 1 billion? 1 billion like out of the 1.5 billion. So I wouldn't expect that they'll get all of the money, but that's still a lot. Like even just a percentage of that is just going to be huge.
I think if when you look at North Korea's like actual revenue, it's almost 4% of their GDP if they would have gotten all 1.5 billion, which is freaking insane when you think about it. But
that's a lot of money. So
that's a lot of money.
yeah, that was a interesting hack. We don't usually cover Bitcoin hacks, but that was just so huge. It's just like, holy crap. And it's targeted. This is our skating dog story. So Kyle, I hope you have something to say on this. I'm sure you've read this up, right? Like this is pretty much the Akira ransomware got into an environment and they found that the server had EDR. So they're like, all right, well, what can we go to that's not going to have EDR? Oh, look, a webcam that's just on the network. And they were pretty much able to compromise the network and, install AnyDesk for persistence. So essentially they got around the EDR by going through the webcams. And I don't know the super nerdy about how they executed it all, but it was like, holy crap. Like that's just a new novel way. Like we've talked about fish tanks before, but webcams are a new thing. And now everybody's going to be blocking their webcams at work.
It's always going to be about like, if you have an unsecured IoT device that can run code remotely, then that can become like your beacon inside the network or your C2. And from there, you can do all of your, scanning internally, do your reconnaissance, and then you're avoiding EDR because you don't have it installed on an IoT device. Nor would you want to. It'd probably kill it if you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who's running EDR for IoT devices? That's just like really honestly not feasible. But we actually had an interesting conversation in the ExploreSec Slack about Signal. And I wonder if this is a scenario where you could signal. It's like, why is that webcam, pumping out so much traffic? And, why is it, so essentially hot, right? I guess too, like, honestly, if they try to deploy their tooling on the servers and EDR blocked it, like, any sort of EDR security operations team should flag that and be like, what's going on here? And, I don't know how they catch webcam traffic or if they're even logging that, but I still feel like that should have been a flag for them. They're like, there's probably somebody in our environment. We really need to like all hands or, shut it down to, figure out what's on there. They got AnyDesk on, and the webcam did have a Linux kind of operating system. So that's interesting because we've always talked about Linux, Macs being secure. And it's like, I think the attackers are starting to get into some of the Linux ecosystem and really, really use that as their playground.
Well, that is true, but what they're installing on those devices is a very neutered version of Linux. And there are a lot of tools that come with it natively that can help protect things that they just choose not to use. The same thing happens with printers. So it's like, you can, anyway, printers are I work in education, so printers are a big to-do about security because nobody wants to secure their printers because the whole world needs to print their printers.
I still have a really firm belief that the individuals who write printer drivers for like Windows are also some of the elite like ransomware operators in the world and malware operators. I just believe they're one and the same. Every time you install a printer driver, it flags EDR and does terrible things because they're clever developers trying to get around to get their stuff installed every single time. So I think they're one and the same. I'm just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. What other news do you guys was kind of top of mind for you guys over the last month? Anything we didn't cover?
About the MS Code extensions that got hijacked.
I don't know if I've heard of the MS Code extensions.
Yeah, so if you use the code editor MS Code in Windows, like there's a ton of extensions you can install for it for like, you want to do Python, you want to do whatever. It's just a really nice IDE for it to use. And there was recently one of these repositories got hacked, one of these extensions got hacked, and they basically pushed out some like spyware kind of, I don't know if they had remote access, but it definitely was not good for your environment. It went out to like over a couple million machines or more, or I can't remember, if it was a billion. It was a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
But
Hundreds of thousands probably, yeah.
Yeah, it again highlights the issue of like, you have all the security in place. Developers in every company tend to want to install their tools and their extensions to make their life easier, to make their development faster. And when they tend to do that, they can use some of these open source tools, which many times are run by awesome people. But then you start to see like there's a potential nation state that'll invest time and energy to basically swoon one of these developers to become friends, and then to basically get trustworthy and like, I want to help with your project. They start submitting code, and then next thing you know, that they actually have rights to submit or take the repo and then push out the next update, which then they slip in at the right time, maybe a back door or something else into it. So it's something else that's, many times you don't think about the extensions that developers use, or even GitHub repositories are in the same boat. Definitely another attack surface that you gotta be aware of and think about.
Browser extensions are another one where if they go stale or something, or people, some of these open source people will sell their pretty much their code base to whoever, right? And then that person comes in and starts sending malicious code, or some sort of black SEO based stuff. So like I am happy to see Google has started saying, hey, this extension is no longer being updated or maintained. They did that for Retire.js, which is one of my favorite extensions. And I was like, well, that seems like one I should probably get rid of if it's not going to be kept up to date. But it's also, Retire.js is pretty simple, right? It just goes and reads like what JS is loading and pulls from like a vulnerability database. But I was like, I was a little shocked that was not being maintained. But it's like, there's always this cat and mouse game. And I feel like browser security is getting better, but there's always like you're talking about, like, how do you know if a legitimate extension, open source project within VS Code, something that's suddenly uploads malicious, like that's just so hard to detect. I mean, look at SolarWinds. That was like you were saying, that's an elaborate. The Russians got into SolarWinds' development pipeline and sat there for a little bit, and then started, like, once they understood the environment and how they developed, started pushing code as part of the build process, and that's how it got in and lasted for 6 months. So yeah, always a way in. Maria said that was not the doggy logo. I'm gonna use that pun instead of the Dodge logo. Any other news you guys got?
I mean, how can you not mention the denial of service attack last week on Twitter?
I thought about that, but I was like, it's Twitter. I don't care.
The funniest part is some of the speculation that the Dark Storm group, who is formerly a hacktivist organization, is perhaps moving into cybercrime, as they started pushing a slightly suspicious Bitcoin style cryptocurrency that was something that they had perhaps had control of, and some fraud that they were trying to implement on that.
Interesting. Yeah, that's happened. I mean, Twitter seems right for that. Remember when the SEC account was taken over? And they're like, hey, we're going to make Bitcoin like a actual funded thing or whatever. And like stock prices just, or the crypto prices just skyrocketed. And, that was probably a pump and dump scheme essentially for a lot of that stuff. So yeah, like that's interesting. All right, cool. Well, we'll get to, this is going to be we did this last month. We're going to do another live podcast recording. So I've had, like I mentioned, Kyle, I asked him to come on. I think we booked how do ransom gangs work. I really need to change it, by the way. I changed it on Meetup. How do ransomware gangs operate? I think I'm going to make that the final title for it, because I think that sounds more professional. But we like schedule. We've been scheduling this since what, like November, and each time we just got on, and we just ended up talking about like catching up. So we never even got to the actual podcast record. We're like 40 minutes in. Reschedule? Yeah, we'll reschedule. So finally, we're gonna do it, and we're doing it live, which is great. I think this is a great topic to discuss live. I will tell you, I did not, just based on workload, prepare enough, but Kyle is my expert for any sort of ransomware incident response. I had him on. I think it was my first podcast back. We talked about phishing and how it changed in the 5 years since I shut down the podcast, which was interesting because I'm getting back into to some of the phishing and incident response stuff. But that's what we're going to discuss after. I'm going to stop. So for people on the stream, stay on the stream, or not this stream. I'm going to start a new stream because I'm trying to chop these up into different like things that are more consumable for people. I'd like to also turn the news segment into more of a podcast that I can do, right, or release as a podcast. So I'm playing around with the content a little bit. So what you guys will need to do is go back to the stream channel. We'll come back in probably about 5-10 minutes as soon as I get things set up properly, which if you were on very early, that is not as easy as it looks, because I'm trying to do a bunch of different stuff here. But yeah, so go back to the live stream channel. I will kick it back on there. You'll probably get a notification. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to my the YouTube channel, and we will be back in a moment.